We are back live here on the One Day, One Delt Day of Giving 21. Thank you all so much for making this day so special thus far. We have over 156 gifts in the door, totaling just under $50,000, sitting at 48 and change. So get your gifts in. Visit www.deltsgive.org today and help us invest in the next 40 years of Delta Tau Delta, as today we celebrate the 40th anniversary of the Delt Foundation. Joining me now is the Director of Assessment for Delta Tau Delta, Ken Tubbs, a good friend of mine. And Ken, I appreciate you making time to join us today.
I appreciate it so much, Vince. I'm so happy to be here on such a great day for the fraternity.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we'll jump right in. We've got some really cool stuff to talk about. So you are the Director of Assessment. I know we posed this question last year, but I'm sure people out there are curious. What does the Director of Assessment do? What is a Director of Assessment? So give us a little context.
Absolutely. Broadly, my main responsibility is to equip people in the organization with tools to help them make informed decisions that impact the membership in a positive way. And so that looks like a lot of different things to a lot of different people, depending on who I'm working with or the project that I'm working on. Sometimes it's looking at historical records of certain figures within the fraternity. Sometimes it's organizing and operating focus groups when we're looking at specific topical areas that we might be interested in either developing or improving. And sometimes it's running surveys and doing some of that member level satisfaction or quantitative level analytics that people are probably used to thinking about when they think around assessment, and particularly what the fraternity has provided.
That's awesome. And I know that it is already started to make a difference within the way the fraternity views progress, projects, etc. And so I know one of the big things that you've been working on, and one of the bigger developments in the fraternity over the past year, has been the member impact study. And so I know there's still a lot of moving pieces with that and still some data coming back to you. But at this moment, what can you tell us about the MIS?
Absolutely. The Membership Impact Study is a long-term partnership that the fraternity has entered into with Dyad Strategies. They are an industry leader in understanding student-level assessment and learning outcomes. And so we're really proud to be working with Dyad, as they're helping us identify ways in which not only are we excelling in our membership experience, but also identifying ways that we can improve. Some really exciting information I can share with you all about year one. So we just concluded the Membership Impact Study survey window. We had over 3,300 students participate in this. This was the largest return of any student survey that we have ever had in the fraternity. And so I'm really proud that the students were so invested in their membership experience that they decided to take up the mantle and provide the fraternity with really valuable information that hopefully, not only will impact their experience today, but also future members' experiences. We had 65 chapters at over 50% completion within the chapter. That's massive in terms of longitudinal study, as this is going to be a 4-year study. So year one benchmarks for those 65 groups are going to be really solid when they start looking at things in year 2, year 3, year 4, and establishing trend lines. And so we're really proud of that too. We're going to be able to generate this data, and Dyad's going to work with us to analyze it and provide an executive summary. We expect that to be delivered to the fraternity by early summer, and so chapters will be able to receive that information, and we'll be working with volunteers and chapters on how to understand that data in the fall. And the last thing I'll share with you, and this is something that we guarantee chapters on the front end, and I want to make sure everyone knows about now, is that on April 28th in the afternoon, we are going to go to Instagram Live. And we're going to be doing the chapter draw for the incentives that we promised on the outset here. So some chapters on that 28th will win Delt branded cornhole boards, recruitment tents, and the prize I think most men are interested in is $1,000 worth of recruitment shirts. And so that will be coming out a week from today.
Very exciting. Very exciting. That's next week, a week from today, after the One Day, One Delt Day of Giving. So make sure to tune into Instagram Live for that announcement. Again, I'm joined by Ken Tubbs, the Director of Assessment at the Central Office. He joins us live from lovely Cleveland, Ohio. And so, Ken, tell me a little bit about some of the projects that the fraternity has planned that involve data and assessment. What are we looking at from a fraternity leadership standpoint?
Absolutely. So we are doing assessment in so many different areas. Thinking about it, assessment might be new to the fraternity world, but assessment has not been new to larger business world. And so thinking about the ways in which the fraternity has collected assessment over time, we have a mountain of data. But we also were thinking about how can we take the assessment that we're currently doing and improve upon that? What are some areas in which would be bolstered by new assessment, by potentially different ways of thinking about how to gather information. And so we have all kinds of different areas in which we're working about thinking through about assessment projects. I think some of the ones that people are most familiar with are member development assessment projects. Those might be things like learning outcomes and curriculum for Digital Ignite, In-Person Ignite, Charge, Division Conference, Carnia, thinking about those curriculum pieces there. Also thinking about recruitment data and expansion data, understanding maybe some areas in which we can identify chapters based on historical trend that we can provide targeted support. Also thinking about ways in which we can use assessment to create a really compelling case for bringing Delta Tau Delta to a campus based on either our chapter's performance at peer institutions, or even thinking through how the success of our new groups seems to occur compared to some other organizations or some of our established chapters, really making that case around the value of bringing Delta Tau Delta to campus. We're also doing a lot of things around our volunteers. So again, the volunteer satisfaction survey will be coming out this spring. I believe this will be the third year that this will be out. And so volunteers can look forward to that coming out here shortly. We're going through a final review and draft process in that. And the last thing, I think this is really important and I think is worth sharing with the membership here, is that one of the areas that we're really focused on is not necessarily specific projects, but in a philosophy in which we share data. So one of the things that we're looking at, and we have been looking at, is the ways in which we can share the information that we have that the members provide to us, whether that's providing written reports or even thinking about visualizing data in a way that helps members, volunteers, alumni, donors, families, prospective members, higher ed partners, being able to visualize the data that celebrates the fraternity and making that openly available and accessible to anyone who might be interested in it. And so we're really looking at ways in which we can take a lot of the really positive data we have now and making that open source so that men can understand that and share that amongst themselves.
That's awesome. And I appreciate you providing that context for everyone tuned into the One Day, One Delt Day of Giving here on this Wednesday afternoon. Finally, Ken, before we let you go, what would you give as advice for chapters or advisors, those looking to incorporate assessment at that local level and utilize some of these tools to enhance that local experience?
Absolutely. As time has gone on, we have seen more chapters invested in understanding their members' experience and being able to hear from their members. And so we've seen more chapters implementing assessment locally. Whether that happens a lot through member surveys, or maybe that's happening through some focus groups. But some 3 pieces of advice that I would share to any chapter, any alumnus, any volunteer who's looking at doing a localized assessment project. The first would be to specifically identify what it is you're looking to measure. I really believe that the best way to solve a problem or to address a problem is to first properly identify what the problems are. And so if you can spend time in identifying specifically what it is that you want to assess and develop questions specifically around those items, you're going to be much further ahead of getting good critical data around those items. I'd also use an appropriate tool for the questions that you have developed. So not all, I sort of think about it, the adage, if every problem looks like a nail, then your only tool is going to be a hammer, right? Like, or was it, if your only tool is a hammer, then every problem looks like a nail? I think that's how it goes. And so thinking about the different ways in which you can do assessment. So if you're looking at trying to count things, or if you're looking at establishing a relationship between things, that might be more of a quantitative approach, figuring out means, averages, medians, standard deviations, those kind of things. But if you're trying to figure out why something is happening or how people feel about it, that might be better done in a focus group or a qualitative assessment where you're getting statements from people and gathering common themes that emerge from those statements. The last piece of advice I would provide is when you have all that data, making sure that you're communicating the results with everyone free of bias. There might be some things that you're surprised to learn. There might be some things that you thought might have been there on the outset in your hypothesis that you can now share and reaffirms what it is you thought was going to occur. But the one thing I think is really dangerous when it comes to data, and we see that, unfortunately every day, is when there is data, but people pick and choose the data to present. I think it's really good if you're going to go through this work and do all this effort to do a local survey or a local assessment of your membership, provide everything back to the members. And that way you can have a full picture of what it is that you're trying to work on, or what all the obstacles are, what all the successes are. I'll also share, Vince, us at the central office, and me in particular, I am more than willing to help any chapter who's looking to do this kind of work. We work with chapters regularly so that we can help them do that kind of assessment. In fact, I worked with a group last week who was doing an assessment around problem solving and understanding their chapter members' willingness to address problems if they see it. And so we've done chapter level assessment in the past, and we're certainly looking forward to opportunities to partner with our local chapters and volunteers in the future. And if anyone should want to work with us, all they'd have to do is contact me, and I'd be happy to get the ball rolling and helping them figure out what they need to do.
You can reach Ken at his email at ken.tubbs, Tubbs, @delts.org. Ken, thank you again so very much for taking some time out of your day to contextualize the good work you're doing and to be a part of the One Delt Day of Giving 21.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, Vince, and thank you everyone who's participating today. It really does mean a lot to the fraternity.
Awesome. That's Ken Tubbs, live from Cleveland, Ohio. We're here in Fishers, Indiana. The snow has stopped and things continue to roll on. So we appreciate everyone's generosity on the One Delt Day of Giving 21. We'll have another live update shortly on some of the numbers and figures from the day thus far. But please visit www.deltsgive.org to make your gift today.